people in private practice more and more acceptable to use the word spiritual, because that is what it is. It is a spiritual reality of them getting closer and closer together. The other thing is, I say to people, you shouldn't have to waste your money coming to me, spending it, because you should be doing the same thing that I'm helping you to do. You should be doing it at home. You should be doing it in the car. You should be, helping each other to grow, so that these difficulties, now we're going to get you started, and then hopefully you can do it on your own and save a lot of money.
But in the initial, it can be so helpful to have someone who isn't being triggered, who is that 2 or 3 steps back, who can say, I can see you just reacted there, and I think I understand what you reacted to. And then in your reaction, then you triggered your partner. I think I can see what's going on here, whereas you're in the middle of the forest and you can't see the trees.
It's just one of the things very often I'll use with an affair is I will say to him, what did she do to have you to have the affair, and what did you do to get her to get you to have the affair, and what did you do to get you to get you to get you to get you, because it's a circular thing.
Right.
He may be the guilty person, but it's a part of the relationship, in that it's a symptom of something, and that closeness that people have, in a relationship.
And it seems to me as if one of the other aspects of marriage that I think is that we have the sacramental understanding of marriage. Marriage is mystery. Marriage is a spiritual place. Marriage is love. We can go through the scriptures and kind of parcel all that out, what that means. But on the other hand, we also have a definition of marriage which is very popular in our culture, right, which is more directed toward marriage as a rite, marriage as not a rite of passage, but a right, R-I-G-H-T, something that I'm entitled to. I can have that, or there's the other idea that marriage is somehow, it's something that self-actualizes me. And I feel better about myself as a result of being married. And then the consumeristic kind of understanding of our culture kind of plays in that, well, then if it isn't self-actualizing, if it isn't helping you, then somehow you've outgrown it, and then you then you can find yourself in another relationship as easily as you can find yourself in a new car. So how do you balance that in relationships?
Yeah.
I don't think it's something you balance. I think that if you try to balance it, it's not going to work. So I think the falling in love experience tends to feel self-actualizing. I'm a better person when I'm with you. You make me feel fabulous. And the balance is, I'm going to always want you to make me feel fabulous, and that's not going to work for a long-term relationship. I'm going to have to make a commitment to, I'm going to see if I can try to do the things that make you feel fabulous, and that's anti-consumerism. That goes against the human nature. It goes against the grain. So we have to dig down for something deeper. We have to find something out of balance, something that's not logical, and it's not in sync with our consumer society, where we have to be a happy customer. I want to be a happy customer in my marriage.
So you give yourself toward it.
Yeah. There's a level of sacrifice. Like in parenting, we understand the sacrifice.
Right.
Usually we understand that better, where we would be willing to lay down our very lives for our children. And it's that kind of sacrifice that's kind of called for with our marriage relationship.
And one of the things I help people to understand is that there's the spousal relationship, parental relationship, and then there's the kids, those 3 factors. The quality of the parenting depends on the spousal relationship. The quality of the kids growing up depends on the spousal relationship. So that we are spouses, we get married, we have children, we become parents. We forget that we're spouses. So we are parents, we are parents, we are parents. The kids go off to college and we look at each other and say, who are you? Who are you? I had somebody once, a couple I sent out at that point to be together, and they came back and she said, I was afraid to be alone with him. I was afraid. I mean, it just so helping people to realize that even though you have children, the spousal relationship has to be cared for and nurtured, because the quality of the kids that come out of the house that become adults depend on that.
Right.
And they think it just depends on, I'm going to get a subscription to Parenting Magazine, and then I'm going to take a parenting course and it's going to have all the answers there, and forget about us as husband and wife.
Well, that's really interesting to me, because like when you're dealing with people who've been walking through grief, it's easy enough to pick up that Kubler-Ross kind of taxonomy. You go through depression, you go through anger. You look at it as a taxonomy. Like all these, you have to go through this step in order to get to this step in order to get to this step.
Right.
And it kind of works with how you're describing the how-to manual, that kind of thing. Marriage doesn't come with a how-to manual. Or you wish that it did, because if it did, then you'd be able to put it on an engineering schematic and be able to work it out and at the end have the right answer. But what you find at the end of marriage is that this whole thing is just about mystery. And at that point, or sacrament is the word that I bring, because I'm a minister, and sacrament means something very, very interesting to me.
I do evaluations for the Episcopal Church. If you've been married twice in the Episcopal Church, you want to get married again, the people in the area come and see me, and I determine and send something off to the bishop saying, yes, they can get married again, okay? And find out that the first and second marriage really weren't marriages. The third marriage, they're marrying for the first time. That there were obstacles in their lives, that when they came, it was legal. The marriage was legal as far as being something holy, being something spiritual, being something that can grow in commitment. It just wasn't there. It wasn't there. People who are addicted can't commit themselves. People who have a mental illness can't. They can say, I do. They can get a marriage license, but they can't enter into something that is beyond, just a legal relationship.
Mm-hmm. Something else that's mysterious about helping the spousal relationship flourish is the investment of time. And if you just make sure that you attend to that oft-quoted date night for mom and dad, that why would just spending more time together, why would that be anything that could restore or heal or maintain the spousal healthy relationship? Well, it works. We keep recommending it because it actually works.
And turn the cell phone off. You're out there, you turn the cell phone off. It's an emergency, they can get a hold of you, but you separate. There are boundaries between you as parents and you as spouses, and the kids become comfortable in knowing that. Comfortable in knowing that something is there, that mystery, they see that and they respect. And when we grow up, we can leave home because we know mom and dad are going to be okay together. They're going to be okay together. They have something that will hold together and perdure through time.
We've been dancing around this whole Ephesians. I think it's 5, right? So we've been talking a lot about this whole thing about submission to one another. And when we're talking about it, I think it's been a very popular, or not a very popular, but it's been very mutual in its understanding as we've been talking. But oftentimes one partner within a relationship feels as if they've been submitting and the other person's been dumping on them. What kind of advice might you give to that couple, and how would you go about working on that relationship?
The path through there, I think, is requires maybe more wisdom than any of us humanly have, because just thinking about the Bible giving us the instruction, love your neighbor as yourself. There's an assumption that you're basically going to take care of yourself. So there's some self-care, there's some sort of selfishness, greediness, whatever, that we're just going to have. We're not going to lay down our lives completely. We're not going to sacrifice so much that we lose ourselves entirely. And yet, if you have a healthy self, this ends up being kind of paradoxical. If you have a healthy self, if you're secure, if you're situated, if you're self-assured, you can set yourself aside, you can sacrifice, you can submit to the other, even to the extent that the other doesn't know you're submitting to them. And you can be all right by the grace of God to go through a season like that. How are both of those things true at the same time? That it's okay to be selfish and it's okay to lay your life down for your spouse? I'm not sure, but I think that's the tension that the Bible calls us to.
And early on in relationships, you know, I did it twice. Okay, you got to do it once. There's a tit for tat in the marital contract, and just pointing out, oh yeah, this is what young kids do. Oh, you married 15 years and you're still doing that? You know, that's what people married 2 or 3 years. Let's look at why you haven't grown beyond that. You know, what has prevented this relationship from growing beyond and that initial tit for tat kind of contract? Because it doesn't. Where's the generosity? Where's going the extra mile? You know, it just apparently isn't there. And what's holding it back? You know, where are you stuck? You know, you're here because you're stuck. You know, this sacrament is all of a sudden frozen. It's stuck. The mystery has disappeared. And you know that. You have enough sense to realize that something's missing. And that's beautiful on your part, you know?
You know, it's funny to me when you're talking about tit for tat. My wife and I used to say it's your turn whenever the diapers had to be changed. That was a very unpopular thing, you know, in our family. And it was a fun thing that we had to try to work out. And bringing humor into the relationship was important at that level, because I mean, you're dealing with all kinds of stuff. You know, it's your turn.
I can remember being in the middle of something that I thought was completely true. I always do the dishes. He never does the dishes when I happen to be in the middle of washing the dishes. And then getting a hold of the idea that it was actually untrue. I was in my emotional state at the moment. I always do the dishes. Why do I always have to do the dishes? Wait, yesterday he did the dishes. Whoa, what was just happening in my head and in my heart?
Mm-hmm.
So untangling things, getting a little bit of sense of humor, a little step back from what you're in the middle of, all those perspectives can be helpful.
And being able to say to people, this isn't anything new. All of us go through this.
Right.
This is a part of, Arlene and I have been married 42 years, in our 43rd, we've been through this. We've been through that. You want me to, as a therapist, to talk about it? As a human being, we've experienced it, you know. And so you know that you're going through things that everybody else in marriage goes through. Kind of maybe harder, lesser, whatever, but it's a sign of growth that you're moving. They don't want to grow in that direction. But
I want to thank you both for being on Encounter this morning, and I want to say that this has been a great conversation, and I'm sure we could go on for another 26 minutes on this.
yeah.
But thank you for being on, and thank you, our viewer, for being here. I
Thank
hope
you,
we've
Jay.
maybe even muddied the water a little bit for you as far as what marriage means. Thanks for watching.